Good afternoon and welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a great first day learning about the types of services that are available and how and ways that you can begin to shape the service delivery system here in Arkansas. Want to take this time to give you guys an opportunity to share what some takeaways from today's events were. So if you could take a minute and type those in the chat box, that would be great, so others can kind of get your viewpoints on your takeaways. Well, the focus of the conference this year was to provide a picture of the types of cases and projects and work that Disability Rights Arkansas staff handle on a daily basis. I also want to spend some time talking about our mission. And our mission is to vigorously protect and advocate for the civil and legal rights of individuals with disabilities here in the state of Arkansas. So what does that mean? What does that mean when we say we vigorously advocate and protect the legal rights of people with disabilities? That means that we do that through dignity, respect, and advocacy. Those are the three components of the organization. We are client-directed, we are client-focused, and the client dictates the types of services in the direction that they would like the case to go. So to help further explain and talk about the dignity, respect, advocacy component of the work that we do here at the agency, we put together 3 short videos, and these short videos are going to be shown during each closing today, Thursday, and Friday. So today we're going to focus on dignity, and I'm going to attempt to show you this video, and let me share my screen, and then afterwards we'll come back and talk a little bit more about it. So bear with me.
We all make choices every day. We all decide where we want to live. We make decisions about who we want to associate with. We make decisions about our finances. And those are all decisions that we take for granted, that there's a whole subset of population that might be able to make those decisions on their own, but have had that decision-making authority taken away from them. We believe that guardianship it has its place for individuals who are absolutely unable to make decisions, whether they're good decisions or whether they're bad decisions. That said, we believe that guardianship is overused. There are lots of people that we have met who are fully able to make their own decisions, and they might not be the decisions that you or I would make. They might still be fine decisions, but they haven't had a choice in whether or not they're going to have their decision-making authority taken away from them. And if there is one person who is under guardianship who shouldn't be, then that is a problem with the guardianship system.
We do actually audits, and we're auditing the financial records, but when we're out there, we're looking for exploitation as well. If there's any discrepancies and like if they don't have receipts and different things like that, we have to report that, and all this information is reported back to the Social Security Administration.
We look at bank records as well as receipts. We interview the individuals at the organization who are responsible for managing the funds. We also interview beneficiaries and their legal guardians to make sure that they don't have any concerns about what's happening and how the money's being managed.
I've been in the helping field for over a decade now, assisting individuals with disabilities. So what really drew me to become an advocate was that coming to DRA, I would be able to effectively help individuals on a larger scale through the various resources that DRA offer.
For me, it's personal as well. So I'm a parent of an adult daughter with Down syndrome. So she's 27, and so I've spent her entire life advocating on her behalf in every aspect that DRA works with: education, housing, vocational services, living in the community, I'm also her payee for her Social Security benefits. So I deal every day with what it means to be an advocate, a family member of a person with a disability, and managing somebody's funds.
I am an attorney here. I work with the abuse neglect team. So we investigate issues of abuse neglect that people call in about, and then advocate on behalf of people, or help work with the appropriate authorities to get their situation resolved. Right now, we're doing actually a lot of systemic work. So we're working in the juvenile justice system. There's widespread abuse neglect happening in our juvenile justice system, especially at the juvenile treatment centers. We're looking at those. We're looking at the psychiatric residential treatment facilities where a lot of our youth are placed, that also funnel into the juvenile justice system, and kind of examining widespread neglect or abuse that's happening there. Being a voice for people who can't otherwise be a voice, and illuminating situations. So especially with the systemic issues that we're doing with juvenile justice and with the psychiatric residential facilities, I think there's a large misconception in the community about what services those are actually providing, who those kids are that are accessing those services. And so if people don't really understand the problem, then we're never going to get a solution. And so we're able really to get in there and really see what's going on, not just rely on outside reports. And in that way, we can, advocate for effective change. Based on the kind of organization that we are, we're able to have some authority, but also have some hearts, and really go out there and make a difference. But it's important for us to know about the issues that are going on in order to make that difference. So especially with the systemic issues that we're doing, the more we know about, the more we can kind of put that together and make effective change, because we don't want to just run out there and change things quickly without really thinking through it and making sure it's the best change for the population.
Good afternoon and welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video that focused on dignity and some of the work that we're doing here at the agency. I'm pleased to be joined this afternoon by Thomas Nichols. Thomas is the Director of Legal and Advocacy Services here at the agency. He's been with the agency since 2016. And then in his role, he manages and supervises all of the programmatic staff and looks at casework and project work as well. Today, Thomas is going to talk share some types of cases that the agency has received related to Medicaid assessments evaluations in the past. So welcome, Thomas. I'm glad you're able to be here this afternoon. So can you kind of talk a little bit about the types of cases that staff have been handling, and some background, and especially talk a little bit about where can people go to get help if they have some problems with their, they want to appeal or they don't agree with the decisions?
Sure. So, obviously it goes without saying that Medicaid is so important for individuals with disabilities, not just in this state, but across the nation. That is especially so for children with disabilities. So let's first do a little background on why that specifically is so important. So EPSDT, it's a very important acronym. It stands for Early Periodic Screening, Diagnosis, and Treatment. So that's, some folks think of it as a program within Medicaid, but really, in fact, it's a characteristic of all Medicaid. Every type of Medicaid you have, whether you are in a PASS, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, whether you have traditional Medicaid for children like our kids, whether you have TEFRA, if you're a child and you are receiving Medicaid, then you can take advantage of this characteristic of Medicaid, that is early periodic screening, diagnosis, and treatment. Now, the federal government has determined that it is a priority to ensure that children with disabilities receive what they need at the earliest possible age. And that's with the hope that early access to treatment, early access to screening, early access to diagnosis could lessen the need for that treatment throughout life, right? So if we dump services on a child at an early age, if we turn on the faucet in order to treat a disability that can be treated at an early age, if we make sure that not only everything in our state Medicaid plan is available, and then go outside of that and make certain that things not in our state plan are provided if they need it, then in 20 or 30 years, our population of people with disabilities will be dramatically different. More individuals will be working, more individuals will be independent, they'll be happier, they'll be healthier, and we would all benefit from that. We would all benefit from individuals with disabilities living independently. We would all benefit from working alongside individuals with disabilities. So what's good for that population is good for the entire population. So one way we've tried to assert EPSDT is incorporating it into every Medicaid case we handle for a child. If they're receiving services under any kind of Medicaid, our position is that they need to show that they need it, and then it should be theirs. And this is without regard to any limits that might be on a service. So, for example, if a child is needing access to an extensive amount of physical therapy or occupational therapy or some type of assistive technology or device, or really any service that can treat a disability or ameliorate the effects of a disability, then any limits that Medicaid tries to put on that for a child should be put aside, because, as I've said, the federal government has determined that this characteristic of Medicaid says that if they need it, even if it's outside the state plan, they ought to have access to it. Now, specific ways that we've been able to utilize EPSDT in our practice, we had a case for a family. The child was a newborn and totally dependent on high technology to assist with breathing. The child had supplemental oxygen delivered. And at the same time, the child also had tube feedings for up to 20 hours a day. So this child was a recipient of private duty nursing services, which is a type of service within Medicaid. But due to the application of some limit, the child could only receive 12 hours per day. As a result, mom, who is caring for this child by herself because her husband had experienced an injury, mom would work 10 hours a day, but apparently she wasn't able to sleep. So she would sleep overnight in 10 to 15-minute increments beside her kid's bed so that she could periodically suction him, check to make sure he was still breathing. And she would get up the next day, go to work, return home, and do the same thing, because she could only use that private duty nursing service to care for her child while she went to work in order to put a roof over her family's head, put food on the table. So EPSDT tells us that the child should get access to what is medically necessary. In that case, the judge found it necessary that the child receive 20 hours of private duty nursing. He is a child, he has a disability, he is eligible for the service. So whatever typical limits might exist, whether they're written down or not, whether they're policy or practice, those limits should not apply because of EPSDT. So we've seen parents without our help get access to supportive living assistance and personal care services for their child due to EPSDT. So personal care can assist with activities of daily living for a child with a physical disability. Supportive living assistance can provide direct care for a child so that they can remain safely in the community. We've seen it used to access some assistive technology and aids. As far as we're concerned, if a child needs it, a child must get it. Okay. So I know that you guys have probably had your fill of the passes, but we can't talk about the Medicaid cases that we handle without diving a little bit into the passes. So the passes are Medicaid managed care for particular populations, just for behavioral health needs and developmental disability waiver services, right? So Medicaid for those two populations has handed over all administration of Medicaid to these private organizations, these passes, and they are responsible for delivering Medicaid services. Now, that also means that those passes are responsible for Medicaid's obligations like EPSDT, any of the typical limits, any of the typical services that you see, the limits should not be used against a child to prevent them from getting access to those services, because even though it's within a pass, even though it's within a waiver, EPSDT still applies. So we've had cases about care coordination. It's our position that care coordination is a covered service, right? If you're a beneficiary of the plan, then you're entitled to care coordination. So if your care coordinator is not ensuring that those services are delivered to you, we're helping people with those issues. Many times it might just be filing a complaint or a grievance. Sometimes we've actually handled it like an appeal of an adverse action, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Many of you are having problems with care providers, with supportive living providers, providing adequate staff. We handle those cases, and we want to hear from you. We've been able to assist with appeals of individuals who have not had adequate staff provided to them. We've provided people with technical assistance or assistance with self-advocacy in handling the issue of understaffing or cases of providers abandoning individuals and not providing them services anymore and leaving them to go find another provider without staff. You have a person-centered service plan that requires a certain number of hours. And we believe the PASs, managed care organizations, are obligated to ensure that those services in your person-centered service plan are delivered to you, okay? It's not just about the PASs authorizing that you have access to those services. It's about the PASs ensuring that those services are delivered according to the person-centered service plan. So we will handle those cases. We have and we will handle those cases. So in order to access those services, you have to receive an evaluation to assign you to a tier. The tier to which your loved one is assigned can have consequences, namely the scope of services available to you. So we've assisted individuals in challenging those assessments. That's more than just the past too. We've assisted individuals with our choices in challenging our assignments. Our choices provides attendant care services for adults with physical disabilities. So we don't just help children. So with our choices, just like how an individual is assessed for the PASS, adults with physical disabilities are assessed in the same way if they participate in the Our Choices waiver. And that assigns you attendant care to assist with your activities of daily living. Sometimes individuals don't give an accurate picture of the services they need, and the assessor will almost always solely rely on your responses to those assessments. You're entitled to know not only what are the choices in my response, but what does that mean about the assessment? You should be able to predict the number of hours you will be assigned, the tier you'll be assigned before you ever talk to an assessor. Okay, we'd like to help you do that because there's no reason that this state administered plan or the state authorized plan should come with any surprises. So I do want to talk briefly about your right to complain and your right to grieve. Okay, we've handled many past cases, whether it's eligibility or specific services, whether we take up representation of an individual or we provide technical assistance or assistance with self-advocacy. Anyone who's a member of a PASS, a provider within the PASS or the PASS itself, will admit that the PASS makes mistakes. It's far from perfect, and it will never be perfect. Medicaid administration wasn't perfect. No managed care organization in this country is perfect. Private insurance isn't perfect. But none of that is an excuse, okay? Because it's about the services that you receive. It's about your individual case, your individual services. None of this is excusing the fact that sometimes they make mistakes. That said, you don't have to accept a decision that you don't agree with. You have the right to complain. You have the right to file a grievance. You have the right to appeal a decision. If you don't complain, if you do not grieve, if you do not appeal, Medicaid won't know if there is a system-wide problem. Medicaid won't know if there is an individual issue if you don't complain about it. Don't give Medicaid, don't give DDS, don't give the passes the ability to say, we've only received 12 complaints about the pass. It must be working great. Complaining is the only way to affect systems change in this system. So that said, let me tell you some things that you need to know as either a recipient of these services or the parent or advocate or loved one of somebody who's receiving this assistance. Keep your correspondence. Communicate by email, by letter, by text if you need to. If someone from the past calls you, then you can follow up in writing to them to confirm your conversation and what you discussed. It will help you with dates. It will help you with names. It'll help you with the substance of the conversations, and you will not regret it. I love it when somebody has walked into our office with a problem and they've maintained this correspondence. They have a record of their communications with their passes or with Medicaid in general. When I say keep your correspondence, I mean keep your correspondence. This is number 2. I sign up for something called USPS Informed Delivery. Okay, United States Postal Service Informed Delivery. Google it. It is a free postal service program. They will scan the envelopes, all the envelopes that are sent to you, say for the paper advertisements. They'll scan the envelopes and email you exactly what's coming to your address that day. What better way to maintain a record? What better way to show that you didn't receive what someone sent you? Here's scans of my mail from a third party, had nothing to do with collecting it, scans of all of my mail, and you're not in there. Or what if you have a limited amount of time to file an appeal? But thanks to your scans, you can show that the letter wasn't delivered until maybe that time had already lapsed. You won't lose your rights. It is free protection. We know that there is an issue with letters arriving timely. Our underfunded postal service struggles sometimes to deliver mail in a timely manner. I know when Medicaid sends out communications, I've seen a letter dated the 1st and it doesn't actually get postmarked until the 8th. It happens. I don't know how their mailroom system operates, but if I hadn't seen it happen, I wouldn't believe it. But know this is that there is an issue with timely sending of mail. So USPS Informed Delivery, completely free. It's great protection. Number 3, when I say keep your correspondence, I mean keep your correspondence. Just like with informed delivery and making sure that you can show when it was delivered, keep the envelopes if they have a date on them. Okay, some postmarks have dates on them. I've managed to help a family avoid losing a right to appeal a claim by showing that a letter was dated just like the situation I described earlier. Letters dated the 1st, the postmark on the envelope was dated the 8th, which meant that it didn't have a chance of arriving to them before the 8th. I make all of my program staff keep their envelopes, and I will tell all of you to do that as well. Next, number 4, I've talked enough about keeping your correspondence. Number 4, the pass contract is public record. Go and read it. It should be on our website soon. It talks about the things that the pass must provide you and the things that it can provide you. It talks about the standard that's used for determining what services you should get as a beneficiary of this program, and it's not always medical necessity. It talks about so-called limits on services, and it talks about when they can't place limits on services. So it's very important. I know that if you're anything like me, you dread reading a contract, and it is not a short contract, and it is not an easy contract to read, but there is so much information in there that I recommend it to anybody who has a loved one who's receiving services through the pass, or if an individual is receiving services through the pass. Number 5, Medicaid manuals are public record. They're on the Medicaid website in the provider section. Those are some primary regulations that control how Medicaid is administered. They're not easy to find, but if you go to the Medicaid website, if you go to information for providers, and it's in the billing section, all of the Medicaid manuals are there. Those are the rules that control how Medicaid is administered. It has everything from eligibility to requirements, to when limits can be placed on services, to exactly what services your program is required to give you. Next, number 6, your member handbook is on the internet. All of them are. Your member handbook is available to you. If you just go on the internet and search for your pass, you can find your member handbook. It tells you everything you need to know to file your grievance, to file your complaint, to file your appeal. Don't be afraid to do that, okay? You can do it by email sometimes. You can do it by phone sometimes. They have to make it as easy as possible. And the more you grieve, the more you complain, the easier it is for Medicaid to identify a system-wide problem. But if you don't grieve, if you don't complain, then nobody knows, okay? Number 7, I know it sounds scary. You can call us, okay? Like I've said, we can provide technical assistance. We can provide advocacy. We can provide legal representation. The passes are one of our priorities to assist you with. EPSDT is another. If we can't help you, we will find someone who can.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas. And I think that probably was somebody who was watching and needing some help right now with a past issue. So
it's not a call-in show, is it?
No, unfortunately. So thank you, Thomas, for providing that insight. It sounds as though there's it's a two-way street, that individuals receiving services need to keep all the information and speak up, and not just accept the services that they get if they feel they need more, and to reach out and give us a call, and we can assist them going forward. So a lot of great information, and again, thanks for joining us. And to all of you, thank you for joining us on day 1. Make sure to come back tomorrow and the rest on Friday. There'll be different sessions focusing on education and disability law. And we have some amazing speakers lined up. But before we go, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Wright Lindsay Jennings, Lamar Advertising Company, Network Services Group, and Hogan Taylor, LLP. Without their support, this conference would be very difficult to come together. So thank you again, everybody, for coming out, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.